Hello everybody, Brad Johnson here. And in this video, we're going to be discussing a very important topic. The topic of this video is all about the abode, awareness, surrender, and release. So as I'm talking about the abode, I'm not talking about something that exists within the mind. Now, when I've done some previous exercises and have shared that publicly, basically when we look at those exercises, they still work with some type of portion of the mind. Let's take a look at the example of the BCR technique. The BCR technique helps you to go through breath work, brings you into calmness, and then we work to go into the higher state of the mind through reinforcement. So we're reinforcing the connection to love through ourselves, through the higher mind. And of course, that assists in bringing a much more stronger state of reinforcement within ourselves so that we can clear away the lower conflicts, the lower animosity, the lower tendencies by staying in the higher frame of mind, the higher state of mind. When we're looking at prana transmission technique, we're using the power of the Om chant, right? So we're using Om, doing that 3 times. And if we're looking at an issue here, a tendency, well, we are saying Om 3 times, and that starts to shrink itself down. And now we can completely see that old tendency shrink and dissolve altogether just through the power of that Om chanting. Then we go into phase 2, where we're working with spirit to create a affirmation that is helping us to repair our cellular body, to clear away any debris left over from that tendency. So even that too still involves the mind. But we noticed that through BCR technique and through prana transmission technique, the idea of the mind becomes softer and softer. But that's not what we're going to do today when I'm talking about the abode. So Brad, what is the abode? Well, if we look back into something like the Tao Te Ching, where Lao Tzu referred to the nature of the self as the way, we're looking at that which is beyond the mind. Mind cannot touch the abode, just as mind cannot touch the way or the Tao. We can also refer to this as the self. We can also refer to this as pure consciousness in that way. We could refer to it as God consciousness. We could refer to it as Purusha or the Atman or Brahman, right? That which is the unmanifest. That which truly does not have any objectiveness, no image, no thought, no feelings or emotions, no sensations, no perceptions. All there is the abode. And that's what I call the no mind. Okay? Within the no mind, there is absence. And what are those absences? There's an absence of thought, of feeling, of emotion, of sensation, of objects. Everything that is the mind pertaining to these simple categories is completely absent in the abode. So that is what you're going to learn how to move into, how to enter in this video. We're going to see the absence, witness the absence of all of these things fading away. This is taking it to the next level, right? I've always referred to my techniques that have certain levels to them, right? We look at prana transmission technique, level 0.5, We look at BCR technique or cord removal healing, level 1. We look at conflict elimination technique, level 2. This one does not have a level, okay? This is not a level 0. This is not a level 1 or 2 or 3. It does not have a level. The reason why it doesn't have a level is because it does not base itself within mind whatsoever. But this is the most powerful experience you will ever have when you work with the abode, because the abode is your natural being. It's not something that you acquire. So when we look at the abode, it is you. You are the abode right now. When we look at the meaning of the word abode, we can see it as a residence or a home in that particular way. And that's exactly what's happening. We're going back into ourselves, into our own abode, into God consciousness, into the self, into the Tao, into Purusha, into the Atman, into Brahman. Okay? Whatever you want to term it as. This is no mind. This is permanence. It is you. It is permanence. It is static. It is changeless. It is unfathomable. It is eternal, infinite. It has no beginning, and it has no end. No beginning or end. Therefore, it is that presence that is eternally, infinitely you. So when you quiet the mind, you quiet the thoughts, quiet down the feelings, you quiet down the emotions, you quiet down the sensations, you quiet down anything pertaining to objects, pictures, you will be in the abode. This is what the non-dual really is all about. It's going into the true consciousness, which you are. You are that true consciousness, which I have termed as the abode. So Brad, why are you showing this to us today? Because you're going to learn how to enter the abode and clear away all tendencies, all problems, all conflicts, all regrets, everything that represents chaos, everything that represents your negative orientation of being, everything that represents falsities and falsehoods. That's what you're clearing away. Okay? But we use, again, a similar premise to the idea of something like prana transmission. So we're going to get into that now, about going into the abode. And it's very simple to get there. Doesn't even require a breathing technique. Okay? It can be something just as simple as following a question. Aware. Am I aware? Are you aware? And we just close our eyes and we ask ourselves that question. Am I aware? You see, you're not looking to answer this question intellectually. Okay? Am I aware? Okay, I'm not here to say yes. I'm not here to say maybe or no or anything of that nature. It's one of those rhetorical questions. I just ask myself the question, am I aware? Am I aware of being aware? Okay? It can even be something as simple as this. I, and we're there. Okay? So it doesn't have to start off with any form of breathing technique. Now, for many of us, we may want to have a simple breathing technique that helps us, and we can do that as well too. But I'm looking at something that's even simpler, than the idea of having to follow a breath control technique. And that is just simple prompting. Am I aware? I, right? Or it could just be am I, right? That's another one. Am I? Am I aware? Am I? Okay. To whom or to what do these thoughts arise? You see, these are all just simple inquiry-based questions that we are posing to ourselves to elicit the mind to be unable to respond. It can't respond to this because there's nothing of intellect that can touch this. Am I aware? Am I? Who am I? What am I? Right? It goes back to the simplicity of self-inquiry. Am I aware? And when we say that, we just feel that silence. That's the idea. You're experiencing the abode. Now, again, some may say, well, Brad, what about a breathing technique? Can there be a breathing technique that I can do with this? Yes, okay. But this is what I'd recommend as number one. Okay, just simple prompting. Number two, we'll go into breath control. Okay, yes, HRV works very well, but we're going to do something else besides HRV in this example of breath control. Okay, what we're going to work with is what's referred to as the baby breath. What does that mean? Have you ever seen, heard a baby sleeping? Right? You see them sleeping in their crib and you're just listening in, and you'll notice that their breath is a lot like this. Okay? This can be referred to as the baby breath or the sleeping breath. We do this every time we go to sleep. That's the kind of breath we have when we're going to sleep at night. Okay? So it's referred to as the baby or the sleeping breath. It's quick. It's pretty shallow. It's pretty quick. Okay? There's even YouTube videos where you can hear the sound of a baby sleeping. Now I want you to really observe that breath. I use that breath quite often in meditation to go into the abode, and it works like a charm. The thoughts instantly stop. Okay? So your eyes are closed and you're just following the baby or sleeping breath. Try it with me. Okay? It's less than a second long through the inhale and through the exhale. And it's very powerful. There are yogis who even use the baby or the sleeping breath to go into deeper states of samadhi. Right? It works really, really well. So like I said, HRV is certainly on the table, but give that one a try if you want to work together with breath control. Okay? But the whole idea here is just to keep the mind still. We're, again, doing a simple prompting that's moving you into the abode. Okay? So this, again, just requires practice. It's working to keep the mind quiet through prompting and even through breath control. Am I aware? Am I? Who or what does this thought belong to? Okay? Very simple prompting, self-inquiry-like questions. Okay? That's the number one recommendation. So now we're in the abode. Now we are basically looking at a blank screen. Okay? So I can never describe to you exactly what the abode is like. What happens is, again, we close our eyes, and all we're doing is we're looking at the blank space behind the eyelids. This is referred to as chittakash. You're looking at the blank space between the eyelids. I'm just putting up a blank screen here. to give you the closest analogy of what it's like. There's no objects, there's no images, there's no thoughts, there's no emotions, there's no feelings, there's no sensations, there's nothing of that nature, nothing that represents mind. It's a blank screen. It's like going into a movie theater and you see the gigantic theater screen there with absolutely nothing on it. It's just a blank screen. But when we turn on the projector and the image projects onto the screen, well, that is the analogy of mind. Mind is showing you all of these images. So we have an image of a raging inferno. But when we see that image, does the screen get burnt by seeing that raging inferno? No. When we see an image of giant tidal waves, do we see the screen getting soaked by those tidal waves? No. Then we turn the projector off. No matter what was shown on that screen, the screen remains intact. That's the abode. That's the self. Okay? That's what you're learning to do. This is considered to be the ultimate way of returning to yourself. Like I said, we can refer to it as self-inquiry. We can refer to it as self-abidance. But I refer to it as the abode. You're going home into the abode, that which is of no mind. So now that we have a clarity about the abode, what do we do in the abode? Well, firstly, we just are present with the abode. We are in the abode presence. Okay, so when you're following the breath, or when you're again prompting, and your mind goes quiet, you are in the abode presence. That's where we need to be to get to work. Okay? So when we get to work and we're in the abode, we are aware of everything that is within us. So we may have some problems, some conflicts, some challenges, some tensions, some tendencies, some habits, some influences that may be, as it were, troublesome, negatively oriented, that just pop up while we're present in the abode. And that's okay, because that's actually what we want. So through our awareness, we experience our polarity of mind. It tries to bleed through. It's what the mind does. We have a restless mind, and even when we're in the abode presence, it still tries to bleed through. And that's okay. We want it to bleed through. Okay? So as it bleeds through, we see the polarity of mind, just as I've discussed. Troubles, problems, regrets, conflicts, influences, turmoil, right? All of those things that represent the negative orientation of polarity of mind, separate self-consciousness, okay? So all we're doing is we're just being aware of it. We're witnessing the polarity of mind. So that'll go up here. We're witnessing the polarity of mind. It's what we're supposed to do. It's okay, because this is how we clean out the mind. Okay? Now you can also do this through intention, right? So if you're just sitting in the abode presence and these things are bleeding through, that's okay. Just be aware of it. Just be aware of what's trying to bleed through. The other thing we can do, like I said, is we can intend for any of these problems that maybe we're going through, where you notice that maybe something is on our mind. We had an argument with our dad. Okay, let's use that as an example. So as I'm going into the abode presence, I'm putting that intention and saying, I had an argument with my dad today. Okay, so I had a fight with my dad. So the dad thought comes up and there is an argument, right? Let's look into this. We don't really have to give it any literal context, okay? I had a fight with my dad, right? And I want you just to feel the entire situation while you're in the presence of the abode. Okay, yeah, I'm feeling it. We had this fight, we had this verbal fight. I felt very sad that we had to have this fight. I felt angry at the same time. I felt anxiety because he was really raising his voice, sounded very intimidating, right? And I'm just feeling this. I don't even have to vocalize it, but I'm doing it for the sake of an example, okay? So when that thought comes up, the dad thought that's bleeding through the abode presence, that's okay, right? So here's the dad thought. Well, what else could come up? Okay, well, there's something with work, right? Really don't like my job because it was such a very intense day today. I was arguing with a lot of people. I'm upset because I don't feel like I'm making enough money at this job, etc. So all we're doing is we're basically bringing in these thought packets, okay? And that's what I refer to them as. Thought packets that come in through bleed through. They're bleeding in. The mind is trying to bleed in because it's not at rest. It's restless. You have a restless, polarized mind. And so you have all of these thought packets bleeding through. Okay, so there's something with my dad, here's something with work, here's something with my partner. Okay, my partner and I are just miscommunicating. It feels like we don't understand each other, etc., etc. Okay, we're fighting, we're arguing at the same time. So I have something there with my partner. Well, there's something else that's coming up. It's low self-esteem. I'm just noticing this about myself, that I have such low self-esteem. I let people walk all over me. I'm not sure of what I'm capable of. I don't trust myself. I feel very depressed quite a bit. All we're doing is we're just being aware of the thought packets, okay? We're being aware of these bleed-throughs that are coming in. And that's all we're doing, is we're witnessing, okay? You are not, and I mean this very importantly, okay, very sincerely, you are not getting attached to these, okay? But like I said, it can be anything. I can feel body pain. Okay, I got a sore neck today. I've just been sitting in bad postures. I can feel it taking a toll on my neck and my shoulders. So I got some body pain coming in. Okay, so these are just some examples that you can do. Well, Brad, what is it that we want to eliminate altogether? It's the polarity of mind. Okay, it comes through the physical body, the emotional body, the mental body. Okay? All three of those. That's what's representing the polarity of mind. That's what's bringing forward these thought packets that are bleeding into the abode presence. Which means we can still be in the abode presence and have thoughts come in. It's like thoughts at the roof of above the abode presence. Okay? So this again is not very accurate, but it's just an analogy. Okay? If here we are in the infinity of the abode, here's this attempted bleed through, representing all of these thought packets trying to bleed through in your space, but because you're just being aware, they're not able to penetrate the infinite abode presence. You're just aware of them. When we start getting involved and attached with these things, then you're no longer in the abode presence. As long as you attach and identify with any of these thoughts, for example, you're out of the abode. Okay? The abode presence is the infinite. So, when we see the roof, we could even see it as the sky, right? And we're just aware of these thoughts. Like I said, it's like the images on the cinema screen. They cannot burn the screen. They cannot soak the screen with water through the images because we are staying in awareness. Okay? As soon as you leave awareness and you go into involvement and attachment, poof, they pop into the space. Now you are not in the abode presence, you are in the finite. It's very important for you to remember. So we do not attach. We do not identify. We do not involve. Okay? We are simply witnessing through awareness the polarity of the mind that is at the roof just above. But it's not in the space. It's not in the presence of the abode. That's the good news, because we're just aware of it. In yogic terms, this would be referred to as sankalpa samadhi. Okay? So we're looking at sankalpa samadhi. What that means is you can have waves of thought in your awareness, but you don't get involved with them because you're the witness, you're the observer, you're the spectator. Okay? That's where you want to stay, in the abode presence. You want to witness, you want to observe, you want to be the spectator. And we're just aware of these things. Okay, Brad, I get it. I see what you're saying with the thought packets, with the bleed through that's happening, and that we need to stay the witness. And if we slip up and we involve these things, just come back. Okay? 2 ways of coming back, just as I told you before. Number 1, prompting. Am I aware? I come back. Okay, but we're very gentle. We're not trying to punch ourselves in the face because we get involved and attached with the thought packets. Okay? Because bleed through happens, we're not being hard on ourselves. We're not bashing ourselves to bits. So please don't do that. Have respect for yourself, okay? So when we, again, just get attached because we go back into trance and we let these thought packets in, just catch yourself. Just be aware. Wait, I'm going back into the story. Am I aware? Am I aware of being aware? Am I? I'm back in the abode again. I'm back into the presence of the abode. Or I'm doing the baby or sleeping breath. That brings me back into the abode. And so I'm not attached to these things. I'm back to witnessing. I'm back to observing. I'm back to being the spectator, to look at these thought packets. So it's okay. Just catch yourself. Be gentle. Be compassionate toward yourself. Don't give yourself a hard time. You're the one that has to resolve this, and you need to be in cooperation with yourself. That's extremely important. Okay? So let's take a look at the next step now. So we're aware that we're witnessing. We are aware that we are in the presence of the abode. We're in the abode presence. So we've gone through step 1, which represents awareness. Now we go on to the second part, which is surrender. So here's the thought packets that we are witnessing. Okay, let me put 3 here for an example. You can have as many thought packets in your awareness as you wish. Okay, as many as you feel you can handle. It's up to you. It's up to the being. Okay, let's put 4 here. Okay, so here's something with my dad. Here's something with work. Here's something with finances. Here's something with my partner. Okay, here's a 5th. Oh, let's do number 5. Here's body pain. Okay, sore back, sore throat, sore neck, sore shoulders, aching knees, headache, whatever may come up. Okay, these are the things that are just at the roof of the presence of the abode that I'm aware of. Now we go into surrender. So Brad, what the heck are you talking about? I don't know if I even really like that word. Surrender means like I'm giving up. You are. It's exactly what's happening. You are relinquishing any responsibility you feel you have towards these things. You are relinquishing the mind. Okay? You are relinquishing, which means you are letting go. let go. You are relinquishing, letting go of all ownership of the mind. What do you mean, Brad? Are you the body? No. Are you the mind? No. So why are you attaching to these things? You're not these things. You have access to a body, you have access to a mind, but you are not the body, you are not the mind. So why do you think you own these things? Why do you think you have responsibility to these things? Who made that so? You did. So that's why we're relinquishing all ownership of the mind. This is not your responsibility. This is not something that you own. You do not claim these things because you are not the body, you are not the mind. So therefore, what we're doing is we're cutting the cords, right? Here's a cord, gets severed. We're cutting the cord, cutting the cords, cutting the cords, cutting the cords, which is just another way of dropping the bags, of relinquishing ownership, of thinking that we're responsible for these thoughts when we're not, because they are not who I truly am. I'm surrendering them. Here's a bag. Here's the handle. And I'm dropping the sucker to the ground. And I'm relinquishing any and all responsibility and ownership and thinking that I possess and attach to this thought because it's mine as identity. Drop it. That's all you're doing. Which means I completely surrender. I am completely letting go. I'm letting go of all of this. And as long as I stay in the abode presence, maybe I'm following the breath, maybe I'm saying to myself, am I aware? Am I aware? Am I aware of being aware? Who or what is it that has these thoughts? I'm just abiding in the abode. And as long as I stay here, what happens? Dissolve. Dissolve, 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 dissolve. The cords are cutting. I'm dropping the bags. So as that happens, I'm aware of myself surrendering, because while I'm in the presence of the abode, I'm not experiencing mind. I'm in the abode. I'm looking at a blank screen. I'm just aware. I'm in the presence of my awareness. I'm in the presence of the abode, where there is no mind at all. I'm looking at the blank screen with no thoughts. And as long as I stay there, all of these are having their cords cut. All of the bags are dropping to the ground. Dissolvement is taking place. So that's what we do. When I say surrender, you're surrendering. There's nothing you have to do. Surrendering doesn't take an effort. When we surrender, it is that flow that comes in where everything just naturally starts to dissolve, because we're not doing anything but just being aware. We're just being aware. And as we're just being aware, everything now comes into the flow of surrender. And you don't have to do a darn thing, but just stay in your awareness and nothing else. And the bags drop and the cords cut, and you are able to completely let these things go. You are relinquishing ownership, responsibility of all thoughts. relinquishing responsibility of the mind altogether. And it's the most freeing thing there is. Someone who experiences this, it's freedom. So we go into surrender. We do that. What do we do next? Now that the bags have hit the floor, we let the covers of those bags open up. And now we see the covers of those bags opening up, and we see a mighty gust of wind, and whoosh, everything within those bags are now scattered to the winds of the self. They are being absorbed. They're going into absorption. All of that content of the mind, through its state of dissolvement to what surrender starts, release finishes. So now we go into releasing. Surrender begins the flow, releasing culminates the flow. Just as we see dissolvement, we're seeing all of that dissolving away, the covers open, we feel all these things flowing away. And all we're doing is just releasing. Okay? So I just ask myself, okay, I'm aware, I'm surrendering, I'm releasing. Gone. All of it gone. What did I do? Was it because I snapped my finger? Nope. It's because I had the intention of release. That's it. That's all I've done. I just use that snapping of the finger as an effect. If you want to do that, that's fine. You don't have to. I surrender, and now I release this. And just the awareness of that intention of releasing happens. Okay? So, I'm aware of these thoughts, aware of the bleed-throughs, or maybe I'm intending these thoughts of awareness, or these thoughts of above the roof of the abode, just being there. But I'm still present in the abode. Okay? I'm aware of the thought packets that are coming through bleed-through. Okay? But they're still not within the infinitum of the abode presence. They're above the roof. Okay? So like I said, that's where you're aware of thoughts, but you're not involving them. Okay? The minute you become involved, what happens? You're no longer in your infinite abode. Okay? You become attached to the story. You become attached to the drama. That's where you get lost. We have to catch ourselves, bring ourselves back. How do we do that? We prompt, we breathe. One or the other, okay? Or one and the other. It's up to you, okay? And we bring ourselves back into the abode presence, and we surrender. All we're doing is we're just staying in the presence of the abode. That's all there is to it. I just surrender, which means I'm not putting a thought in my head. I'm not putting an image in my head. I'm not visualizing. I'm not doing any mind-based stimulation at all. None. Because if I do that, then I get out of the abode presence. Okay, so we just surrender. And I feel it. Okay? I feel the surrender happening. Now that I feel the surrender happening, all that's coming through right now is just the flow of release. It's not a thought. It's just a flow. It's like being the wind, right? Here's surrender, dropping the bags. Here's me as the wind. Just carrying that away. Just release. Okay? It's just a simple, intention-based flow. Okay, they've surrendered, release, right? I just feel the release happening. I don't have to do anything. It's effortless. Okay? And now you see all of this gone. Completely. All of it. Never to return again. as long as you completely 100% surrender. Okay? So I want to do a full demonstration now, utilizing all three of these steps and being in the abode presence. So I want you guys to do this with me now. Okay? So let's make this a little easier. Before we even go into the abode presence, I want you to pause this video. And I want you to think of maybe just a couple of things that are polarizing in your mind right now. That maybe, again, you are looking at these things and saying, yeah, I'm ready to let these things go. Okay? So you can do some pre-planning here. Your thought packets. Okay, so let's take a look at maybe 2 or maybe 3. Let's do 3. Let's take a look at 3 thought packets, even before we go into the abode, okay? So go ahead and pause this video right now, and let's scan the body, and let's look at 3 thought packets that you're ready to surrender and release in the abode. Go ahead and pause now. Okay, do you have your 3 thought packets? Okay, so here's something here. Maybe it's the parents. Here's something here. Maybe it's work. Here's something here. Maybe it's something with the physical body. Okay, physical pain, physical ache, etc. Okay, good. You got your 3 packets. Now, like I said, you can also do this when you're in the abode, right? It's fine. You're just being aware. We're not diving into thought. We're just being aware. These things are kind of floating into our awareness. Yeah, I got a sore back. Yeah, there's a feeling with my dad here. I can just be aware of it, right? There's something here with work. I'm just aware of it. We can do that in the abode. But in this example, we're doing it before we go into the abode. And that's completely acceptable. You can do that too, okay? Before or while you're in the abode. Either way is fine, okay? So we got our thought packets. So I want you now to go into the abode presence. Am I aware? Am I aware of being aware? Am I? To whom or what do these thoughts belong? Now we can look into breath control. And go into the presence of the abode. Go into the abode. The blank screen. The blank presence of awareness. Am I aware? Am I aware of being aware? Okay, so I want you now just to be aware of the thought packets. Be aware of the bleed-throughs. Be aware. Just be aware of what they represent. Just be aware of their presence. Just be aware. Now just let yourself surrender. Relinquish all responsibilities. Relinquish all ownership. Relinquish all identification. Relinquish all sympathetic resonance. Relinquish all karmic beliefs. Relinquish all of the mind. All of it. And just be. Just be. Just be. Surrender. 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 And as you surrender, you feel the dissolvement of these thought packets that are at the roof, just above but not inside the abode presence. Completely 100% surrender to them. They are not yours. You are not the body. You are not the mind. You are not the mind. You are not the body. You have no responsibility to these thought packets. You have no responsibility to the mind. And now that you have 100% surrendered, release. You drop the bags on the ground. The covers of the bags are flying open. Just be the flow of the release. Be the flow of the release. Feel the awareness of those thoughts flying away with the wind. Feel the flow, the awareness of those polarized programs of mind flying away with the wind that is the flow of release. Let them all go. Let them be scattered to the wind. Now take a deep breath in. Exhale. How do you feel? Were you able to completely release all of those thought packets? If you did, congratulations. That's all you're doing. If you still feel like some remains, that's okay. Let's go back to awareness. Let's go back to the abode presence. Okay? Let's be aware of what remains. We're in the abode presence. Am I aware? We're just aware of what remains. No judgment. No harshness on yourself. Be gentle. Be compassionate. Be cooperative with yourself. Just be aware of what remains. And surrender again. Just surrender. You don't have to do anything. Not a thing. Just be aware. Being aware is the flow of surrender. Just surrender. Just be. And we move into release. We drop the bags, the covers open. And you are that flow. You are that force that absorbs everything. And through that analogy, you're the wind that blows away all the contents of the bags that scatter to the winds. You absorb it into the abode. The abode absorbs everything. It's like a black hole. That's all we're doing. That's what releasing does. Releasing is the process flow of watching all of those things getting absorbed away, scattered to the wind. Okay? Repeat, repeat, repeat. We just do this again. Okay? More thought packets come in because we have hundreds, if not thousands, of tendencies, of influences, of conflicts, of emotional harshnesses, of turmoil, of tensions, have all these things. And all we're doing is bringing multitudes of these thought packets at the roof of the abode presence, keeping the infinitum of the abode presence intact by remaining aware. Okay, so we bring more in, and we do the exact Same thing, all 3 steps. That's it. And do this every single day. Do it in multitudes. Okay? This is what I'm teaching my students. Not exactly this, okay? But it's very similar to what my students are learning and to how they're releasing more and more, because now they're going to see this video and say, oh, cool. Here's something new we can try. Okay? I wanted to introduce this both to the public and to my students at the same time. It's kind of my surprise. So the important thing is that we are frequently repeating this, and this is where people get stuck. Whether I'm working with students or whether I'm working with clients or whether I'm working with subscribers on my YouTube channel. We do this once and we think that's it. No. Repetition, repetition, repetition. Over and over and over again. Okay? The abode is who and what you truly are. You are the abode. It is not something you need to acquire. It is not something you need to obtain. It's not something that you feel you have to have. It's not something external. You are that eternal, infinite, changeless, unfathomable presence that always exists. It's that infinite presence behind the mind that is always present. It's you. It is you. All you're doing is you're entering yourself. This is why I call it the abode. It's you. You are this home. You are this infinite, eternal home. This home has no image. It has no object. It has nothing of mind at all. It's just awareness. It's consciousness. It's God. It's the self. It's the Atman. It's the Purusha. It's Brahman. It's the Tao. It's you. I want to make that very clear. The reason why I repeat these things is because I keep getting people that email me and say, yeah, but what about the abode and the abode? How do I have to do to get there? You are the abode. This is why I teach in the way that I teach, guys, so that this really sinks in. Okay? Some of you may get tired that I repeat a couple times. I do that so that this sinks in. Right? Making it hard-coded into your awareness. So continue to repeat this. Do this frequently each and every day. And even if you're doing that multiple times per day, I can say that even within a week, you're going to be a completely different person. But don't stop after a week. Keep going. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Until you are completely liberated. You are completely free. You are now integrative. You're not concerned about attachments or detachments. You are integrative now. Because you know exactly how to remain in the abode, work with awareness, surrender and release, and go free. It's that simple, guys. It's that simple and it's that easy. The only reason why we struggle with this is because we make it hard. We are resisting our ability to change, and you got to give that up. Be open, be water, be fluid. It's kind of like what Bruce Lee would say. Empty your mind, be formless, shapeless like water. You put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. Put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put water into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now, water can flow or drip or creep or crash. Be water, my friend. Wise words from a great master. Okay? It's exactly what this is. The water is just the analogy of being completely open, being completely bendable. Let everything in. Okay? Let the bleed-throughs happen. Let the thought packets come in. Be aware, surrender, and watch them be released, absorbed back into the abode. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you again in the next video. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaskar. Thank you very much for checking out the New Earth Teachings YouTube channel. Feel free to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And you can check out the websites, newearthteachings.com, where you can order a private session, 3 questions by email, EQ method, and a lot more. And you can also check out healingcodecards.com, where you can grab your mind deck, your body deck, and of course the brand new body deck special edition. All of these are available in digital editions as well. And you can also get a shirt just like this through healingcodeshop.com, where you can experience the healing codes in apparel form. So feel free to check out these websites. Thank you so much, and I'll speak to you again in the next video. Be well.